Your big's running the floor. We'll talk about his age, talk about his game, Richard Jefferson.
And now, here's Rob Dibble.
Celtics needed to get back in the series. They did it in fine fashion. They win 115-93. That's the kind of basketball you need to play from the onset. First quarter, they were up 16. Went into halftime with a big lead. But still, again, the Knicks fight to try to come back and almost get back in this game. Jalen Brunson, another great game, 27 points. He's been phenomenal in the postseason. I mean, Jason Tatum almost had a triple-double, but very hard. I don't care whether it's any of these series. The home teams are having trouble winning games, and it's crazy. You would think it'd be home court advantage. Doesn't really matter. Even the Timberwolves, they beat the Warriors at Golden State 102-97 in the game after that game on Saturday night. But Celtics win. They're back in this 2-1. They have Game 4 tonight.
Yeah, the Oklahoma City Thunder Nuggets game was just like you described as well, as far as a road team and the home team just not showing up. It is wild because usually when we talk about home team or home court for basketball, we're usually talking about shooting and what you're more comfortable with, your shooter's eye. I feel like the Boston Celtics' best place where they shoot is TD Garden, where they play their home games. But they shot like trash in the first two games of this series, and they're 50% from three in New York. Like, that's, to me, the biggest difference in the NBA. Are you making your threes or not? 20% shooting from New York from downtown, 50% shooting from Boston. That's going to win Boston every single game. If they go out tonight and throw up a bunch of bricks and the Knicks make theirs, then I'm taking the Knicks tonight. But when the Celtics are not on from three, they're a completely different team because they are live by the three, die by the three. Not only Tatum was on, but Peyton Pritchard. Peyton Pritchard is a nightmare for most teams because he comes off the bench, you don't expect much, and then you turn around, look, he's the highest scorer in everybody on the whole from both teams.
Yeah, but what did we say about that in Game 1 and Game 2? Again, I bring up that they were 25 for 100 in the first couple of games, which is atrocious at your own place, but Pritchard wasn't in the game much, and Porzingis only played 27 minutes in the first two games. And luckily, Porzingis was able to come in and play a little bit more off the bench, played 19 minutes, had 5, but he played good defense and was rebounding well. I just think with the younger lineup, when Horford's not in there for 30-plus minutes, he was in there for 35 minutes in this game, but he didn't have to do as much. And, you know, when you're battling and you're getting switched over to Jalen Brunson and you're Al Horford at 38 years old, you don't have a chance. And I just think that they did a much better job of getting guys off the bench, getting scoring, like you said, from Pritchard, 23 points off the bench. That's why he's the sixth man of the year in the NBA. That was a much more well-balanced attack, like you said. And they were 20 for 40 from three, which they had been atrocious, 25% in the first two games.
Especially when they get it from other guys like Al Horford. When Al Horford's hitting that corner three, like it is one that you'll take. Like, oh, okay, reverse round. I missed this rotation. Oh, man, Al's open for three. All right, I'll let you take that.
Well, they're offering that to him.
Okay.
But when he's 0 for 5, the Knicks are patting each other on the back going, yeah, see, we let him take that shot and he missed it 5 times.
I'm wondering, because for me, like tonight's games, I'm wondering about the old guys. I was wondering about
how they bounce back
and just the course of this season. Like this, it already is a long season for the 82 game schedule. But when you get into the playoffs, people forget how long the playoffs are. We've been doing this since the middle of April. We're like a month in right now. And for these older guys like Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, and we'll see what we get from Steph Curry tonight. Those guys have a tougher time when it gets to Game 4, Game 5, Game 6 of these series. For the Boston Celtics, like Al Horford is that guy for them. New York Knicks, it's everybody because they play so much, especially their starters. They play so much. But for Al Horford, can he put back-to-back performances together? I still don't know what's going on with Kristaps Porzingis, like as far as his illness or what his ailment is that is holding him back. He was not the best from the offensive end. Did a great job standing there and being tall against Karl Anthony Towns.
And making people alter shots.
But if you're going to have to rotate in Luke Cornett and Al Horford, one of those two has got to be a threat, and it's not going to be Luke Cornett. It's going to be Al Horford from the outside. If he follows this up with back-to-back nights of great performances, and you got to tip your cap to Jason Tatum, man. Jason Tatum balled out against New York, and he needs another performance like that tonight. But if they can keep – it's stupid to say because Horford, again, afterthought. Peyton Pritchard, bench player. But these guys, these others, if they come up big again tonight for the Boston Celtics, New York Knicks are going to be tied going back to Boston.
Well, and I did like what Jason Tatum said after Game 3. He said, listen, for what you pay me, yes, there's days where I'm going to get accolades, but there's also going to be days where I get a lot of criticism. And he goes, I'm here for that. He goes, I can handle that. He goes, it's a lot of burden on me. He goes, but I don't mind. He goes, that comes with what I'm paid. He goes, it's what being a professional athlete, and he basically described it. So he didn't shy away from. I mean, we're hard on this guy. Everybody's hard on this guy, but he knows, listen, I'm one of the top dogs. And the only way you win championships or lose championships is to be in these situations. They put themselves in these situations. Karl Anthony Towns on the other side is like, listen, we keep getting behind, and you did in Game 3, and you couldn't dig out of that hole. I'll tell you what, though, the bench wasn't awful.
No, and
Bridges and not Bridges, Robinson and the other guy,
Miles McBride,
coming off the bench, did a great job. Both of them played about 20 minutes. So when you're looking at the benches, like you said, Porzingis played 19 minutes. He came in. He didn't start the game, but he came in a little bit later and not as effective. Well, he's rusty. This guy isn't playing a lot of quality minutes. He's playing actually when the starters sit down for a minute or two to get a blow, whether or not it's Brunson or Cat or anybody else. And then on your side, you're giving other guys a little chance for a breather. I mean, that's the thing. This guy has to give more. And if they can get by the Knicks, and that's still a big if, there's still another game in Madison Square Garden.
They're down 2-1.
Hey, we haven't talked about your Pacers. Your Pacers are up 3-1.
Yeah.
They are in a great situation to take out the Cavaliers. That's where you want to be. That's where you want to be when you at least, okay, we took 2 at your place, split 1 at our place. Now we go back to your place for 1, but we're coming back for Game 6 to our place. Same thing can happen if you're the New York Knicks. So the Celtics, this is, again, not a must-win situation, but you better win this game because you don't want to get down to a one-game situation where you got 3 more games and the other team just needs to win one of them.
So that's Cleveland's situation as the top seed in the East, losing 129-109 last night to the Indiana Pacers. Now, the Pacers, the game they lost, Tyrese Halliburton, their star, only had 4 points and did not want to, face the criticism. Or he said he wasn't asked to go to the press conference, and that's why he didn't show up to the post game. But I'm with Charles Barkley on this, man. You're the star. You want to be the star. You're paid like the star. You don't need somebody to ask you to go to the press conference. You go your own damn self. For Tatum to say that and step up and put his money where his mouth is, loved it. And I think that he could carry this team past through this series, and they could kick the crap out of either Cleveland or the Pacers. Cavaliers are roughed up a little bit. Evan Mobley's dealing with that big toe. He does not look 100%. Darius Garland played, but his shooting was way off. Donovan Mitchell is so much better when those two are a force to be reckoned with. The Pacers are knocking down their shots. Tyrese Halliburton didn't come out and prove like, oh, man, that 4-point performance was just a fluke. He only had 11. He didn't have to play much because they had such a lead. This game was such a blowout. By halftime, it wasn't even worth watching the third quarter. I think they're up by 40 points at half. But when you're making your threes like that, you can build some cushion. Your guys can obviously rest as well because the Pacers didn't have to play their main 5 for most of that game, having that huge lead. My biggest head scratcher was Denver. How's Denver only scoring 36 points in the first half? How's Denver only scoring 8 points in the first quarter? What the hell was wrong with Denver?
That's today's basketball, though, man. It's almost like they're robots sometimes. They come down, they set up their play, they take their shot, they brick it, they get back on defense, and it's almost like nobody's really, and moaning. But that's basketball. These guys, you've talked about this before. They'll shut it down in the third quarter, knowing, okay, we're out of this game, we're getting ready for the next game.
Wave the white flag.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these teams. I don't think they want to wave the white flag. I think it's ingrained in them. It's coached into them.
I agree.
I think this goes back to their AAU days. They're like, you're going to get another game. Like, we play 5 games a weekend when I'm playing AAU tournaments.
Yeah.
So I know I'm guaranteed 3. If we win, the first 3, we're guaranteed a 4th and maybe a 5th if we keep going. But it's for these guys, they're pacing themselves. They're running up and down the court. And like we talk about James Harden, Luka Doncic, some of these guys, I don't think these guys are dogs per se. I think this is what they're told to do. I remember when Paul O'Neal broke his thumb twice diving for balls. And they're like, Paul, you're not a great diver in right field. Don't do it anymore. Slide. And if you watch the end of the last 10 years of Paul O'Neal's career, I guarantee there's not too many times he dove forward. He was a lefty thrower, had a right-handed glove, which is his bottom dominant hand on his swing. They didn't want him to keep breaking that thumb. Gary Sheffield went from shortstop when he was 18 years old with the Brewers to the outfield. They would be like, Chef, do not run into walls. You heard Kevin Kernan told Aaron Judge, do not run into walls. You're only as good, like you talk about, best ability is availability. If Aaron Judge can't play, if Jokic can't play, if Porzingis can't play, it really, really hurts the bottom line of the talent. They know who the most talented guys are. So they're probably saying, hey, James Harden, dude, you can't run 48 minutes up and down the court. So sometimes, kind of take a break on defense. We need you for the 35 points on offense. I guarantee somewhere at some time told these men when they were younger not to do something, and this is just what the reaction to it is. They've been coached to think like that.
And I think sometimes, I totally agree with you. And I do think sometimes where they look up and like, oh, man, it's 3-1 now. I wish we would have played harder those first couple of games. Now we're like so far behind in this series. We'll see what we get tonight. I think both these teams are going to be on fire to get wins. You said must win for the Celtics or a big win for the Celtics. I'd say the same for the Knicks. I think this Game 4 in New York City, 7:30 with the tip-off tonight, that's going to be a huge game for both these teams. Timberwolves-Warriors will be the nightcap, 10 o'clock tip-off as Minnesota up 2-1. I would say if the Warriors lose this and they've got to win 2 on the road, 3 straight, stick a fork in them, they may be done. So it is a big, big, big basketball game on the West Coast tonight as well.
Listen, Anthony Edwards has had a great postseason again. One thing about Tatum, Tatum passed Kobe Bryant before the age of 27, second most playoff points in a career, which is a pretty big stat. A lot of people might not notice that, but at least Tatum should get some credit for that, being with the likes of Kobe Bryant. The number 1 guy, by the way, was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But Anthony Edwards is averaging about 28 points a game, almost 6 rebounds, almost 5 assists this postseason, and that's one of the reasons why the Timberwolves are so close to getting a 3-1 lead here on the Warriors and on their court, no doubt. That's the big thing. With Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, like you said, they have older legs, man. These young mid-20 guys, they're at the beginning of their careers. Right. They want to bury the old men. They want to run these guys off the court and move on. So I think the Timberwolves will be hungry to put one more win down in San Francisco and then go back home.
Big news in the NFL. Right, first, I would say, story on Saturday to start the weekend was Derek Carr retiring from the New Orleans Saints. As the weekend went on, you got more details of this, that he would have had to have a surgery in order to play in the season. So he left a lot of money on the table walking away from that surgery, walking away from his career. Derek Carr's an odd one, man, as far as you putting a bow on a career. Didn't get much opportunity in the playoffs. He's had some years where he's, had some really great numbers. Yep. A serviceable guy, but no one's like bending over backwards to put him on the team. I just find it a fascinating career, but he calls it quits, and now the New Orleans Saints are looking for their starter.
Well, I think he had some good years in Oakland. Then you move to Las Vegas. It's kind of a tumultuous time when you're moving the team and all that kind of stuff. But they surrounded him with some pretty good players. He always had some of the finest receivers to throw to, some really good tight ends to throw to, but maybe not the best offensive lines. And so when you look back at some of the years where he had rough years, one year in 2018, he was sacked 51 times.
Yeah.
2021, he was sacked 40 times. So, think about all the rushes. Think of all the times somebody made some final contact with you as you threw the ball and smacked your face down on the ground. I mean, he was banged up. And when you're, a pretty young man and you're thinking about the rest of your life, you've accumulated enough money. You're probably like, listen, my best days are behind me. There's probably young guys that are going to be taking my job soon, and I don't want to go through another surgery. I do know people, and you and I both, Ben, have friends that have had over 20 surgeries as football players. Knees, shoulders, elbows. I mean, you look at quarterback's like a pitcher to me. These guys, anytime I was getting some work done in Alabama with Dr. Andrews, there were tennis stars in there, and there were football players in there as well. Anybody who's making that throwing motion with an arm is having rotator problems. They're having elbow problems. They're getting stuff. Theirs is just not as publicized as baseball and the Tommy John surgery, but they're getting the same stuff, the same work done by the great people like Andrews or Dr. Jobe, et cetera. So this guy just didn't want to go through that, man. It's not the surgery, it's the rehab, it's that mental anguish if you can ever come back fully from that. And at his age, what does that mean? 80% of when I was good?
Right.
60% of when I was good? Some of these guys, myself included, I retired at 31. You don't want to be like 50% of when I was an all-star. That sucks. It's hard to go out there with that when everybody's looking at you like you were when you were 25.
I always think of David Carr when I think of Derek Carr. David Carr, the older brother, a better Fresno State quarterback, right, I would say. But he was a Carolina Panther for a little while. He was a Houston Texan for most of his stuff. And he was on his back for the majority of all that. Like, he had the worst offensive lines. And he is in an age like right on the brink of CTE and actually knowing about concussions or caring about concussions as a player, a staff, or a league. So I think David Carr had so many bad football experiences in the world of the NFL and the world of this game hurts. And when I think of Derek Carr, he has gotten off. I always imagine these two guys talking. And, like, Derek has made twice as the amount of money as David has and has had, like you're saying, better guys to throw to in a better career. And he has not been as hurt, but still hurt. And I think he's at a point now where, like, do I want to keep it going? Because I've really avoided a lot of the stuff David's had in the head. And I've had this shoulder thing for a long time. So I've looked up his history, his injury history, and he stayed pretty clean until the last 3 seasons. Shoulders put him questionable in a couple of weeks in the 2023. He had cracked ribs and a concussion in the end of that season. He was out with an oblique, doubtful with an oblique, out with an oblique. 2024, he hit his hand on top of a guy's helmet at the end of 2024. That put him out for the rest of the entire season. He had shoulder situation in the offseason because of that hand. It was a little rough when he was trying to throw. Now he has to have shoulder surgery, and like you're saying, man, he's 34 years old.
Yeah. Married, 4 kids.
He is going to, from what I've heard over the weekend, he is going to continue his fellowship that he does with this church in California. Yeah. His brother is an offensive coordinator for Bakersfield Christian High School. That's really huge. Join him. Exactly. Like, he's got his life set up right here on out. The question is, do you want to play the game anymore? That's like the biggest question for all of these athletes, man, and it's tough when it's hurting.
Well, and like Kurt said, you got 4 kids. He probably wants to spend more time. You don't want to keep it. Listen, it's a 20-hour-a-day job when you're a football player.
When you're a quarterback.
You're studying so much film. You're trying to mentor the new coming quarterbacks and stuff and work with them and kind of be a player coach with them. And like you said, now you're injured. And I've talked about this many times over the last 25 years. You're irrelevant when you're in that locker room hurt. Nobody wants to talk to you. They don't want to be like you. And it's a tough situation to be in. And like you said, David was banged up a lot. His brother's like, dude, how much longer do you want to drag this out?
True.
Hey, let's go work with some kids. We'll keep doing stuff with the church, and you raise your family, and you have a great life. But if you keep risking it, like your head, meaning all the CTE stuff, that's when it's going to be an issue. And by the way, I love this guy a little bit more today when I saw his full name, Derek Dallas Carr.
Oh, I did not know his middle name was Dallas.
DDC, but Derek Dallas Carr. I like him even more.
Unreal situation the Saints are now in with a quarterback. Like, they could get old man Rodgers, who's 40, which is 6 years older than Derek Carr, or they could go with the rookie they drafted who's 25, and or they could go with the guy who played last year who was 24. Like, they're all screwed up in New Orleans as far as what's going to happen with their quarterback. I think they should roll with the Louisville rookie who's 25, Tyler Shaw. But Spencer Rattler knows the offense. He played some games last year.
Rattler.
He's probably going to get the opening training camp start, but I don't know as far as...
I like what Derek's coming from here, too. I mean, there's some old guys, they'll play till they're 40, and you're going, give a kid a chance. And now you're looking at these, you're looking at them around the quarterback room, that guy's like 25, that guy's 20. They're not kids.
Right.
They're grown men. They've got families, too. So I'm not saying it's easy to walk away, but I think it's easier when you've had some injuries and you're about to go under the knife again. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back, do some MLB talk, Daily Pickle, and then coming up next hour, Ray Reed, the amazing Southern coach and then UConn coach for 24 years. Also coached the national team, also coached over here with the Hartford Yard Goats, and we'll talk some more about the Bob Dracanian dinner that's coming up on May 21st. It's the Rob Dibble Show with Ben Darnell in your afternoon drive. Kirk Kaplan on the ones and twos. John Ashmead is on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for keeping us on the air. We'll be right back.